ya publicados 99 libros. No sé a qué hora, ¿de ver? Además, buenos, o sea, sí, 99. Está en proceso de escribir su libro número 100. Creo que, bueno, eso psicoanaliza, ahorita lo van a presentar con todos sus títulos nobiliarios. Bueno, poquitos títulos nobiliarios, pero más allá digamos, de sus títulos y de todos sus logros académicos, yo creo que lo que es muy importante es entender que es un psicoanalista comprometido, muy cercano a los pacientes, y que además tiene esta habilidad y esta frescura para hablar de lo que pasa en el análisis, sin demasiado rebuscamiento, sin demasiado cuidado inclusive, porque a veces dice cosas en sus libros y en persona que muchos psicoanalistas no se atreven a decir, pero que todos sabemos de lo que pasa en el consultorio, de lo que pasa en las instituciones, de lo que ocurre a veces en ciertas situaciones de poder, de qué es lo que no se debe mezclar. En fin, yo creo que Salman realmente es una gente que nos comparte todo un conocimiento y una experiencia de vida. Quiero además presentar a la mesa, bueno, agradecer a ustedes que estén, a toda la gente que nos ha ayudado, toda la gente de APM que nos ha ayudado, y me refiero a los socios, a los amigos, a los colaboradores y por supuesto a la mesa directiva y a toda la gente de administración, porque es esto más, vámonos corriendo a Morelia, y allá ya tenemos lleno el cupo. Van a hacer trabajos 2 días intensos, entonces yo creo que y también al pobre Salman lo vamos a traer trabajando los 2 días muy intensos. Entonces sí quiero agradecerles a todos y quiero presentar hasta la derecha a Dolores Montilla, que actualmente coordina el área de difusión. Aquí tenemos a Beli Hinojosa, que ella maneja el área de la comisión científica, que es la encargada de organizar todos estos eventos, incluyendo el Congreso, por supuesto. Para allá está Pilar Rodríguez, que es actualmente nuestra tesorera, ese puesto al que todo el mundo le corre, pero ella es valiente y fuerte y lo tomó. Sí. Aquí a mi izquierda está la secretaria de la mesa directiva, que ya vamos a ponerle vicepresidente, porque pues ya todas las asociaciones ya le cambiaron a vicepresidente, excepto nosotros ya le vamos a cambiar. Es Olga Santamaría y yo, Rosa Corso, la presidenta actual, que siempre les digo a mis alumnos, pero eso se quita, para mayo ya se quita, no hay problema, vamos a disfrutar mientras. Y quiero darle la palabra a Olga para que ella haga la presentación del doctor y luego ya nos bajamos todos a oír.
Hola, buenos días. Gracias, Rosa, por la presentación. Gracias, Salman, por estar aquí visitándonos, siendo una persona tan ocupada, llena de pacientes, escritos, universidad, todo. Les cuento un poquito de él. Salman Akhtar nació en la India. De ahí viene toda su familia con un bagaje muy, muy artístico, con relación con Bollywood. Su padre, el hermano, que están todos en el medio con Hollywood también. Él estudió psiquiatría allá y luego en Estados Unidos hizo todos sus estudios estudió medicina, estudió psiquiatría en la India, después se formó como psicoanalista, es psicoanalista didáctico, obviamente en funciones de supervisión, y está en el Hospital Jefferson de Filadelfia. Ahí es donde tiene su sede. Pero lo más importante que sé que a él le gusta es que él es poeta, tiene un libro de poemas extraordinario y es escritor. Como les contaba Rosa, está en proceso de escribir su libro número 100, pero además ha escrito más de 300 artículos, publicaciones internacionales. Entonces estamos con todo un personaje y con esta parte, como decía Rosa, de una calidez, porque la forma como él escribe, si han leído sus libros, es como leer una novela, pero con todo el bagaje teórico, que son extraordinarios. Tiene uno que les recomiendo mucho, por ejemplo, una obra maestra que es el diccionario Él tiene un comprehensive dictionary of psychoanalysis y es impresionante su diccionario. Yo estoy impactada. De veras vale la pena que todo el mundo lo tenga. Y dentro de sus obras, por ejemplo, hay uno de trastornos limítrofes de la personalidad que muchos de ustedes conocen, el de Broken Structures. Ha hablado mucho de migración. También tiene una línea sobre Margaret Mahler's separación e individuación, que es muy importante. Un libro que creo que es de los recientes, que se llama Silent Virtues. Se lo recomiendo, chiquito, precioso. Ha escrito de hermanos, de relaciones fraternas. Tiene uno del padre, que se llama Padres Reales, Padres Imaginarios. Tiene un montón de libros que de verdad es un deleite tenerlo aquí con nosotros. Entonces, adelante, doctora.
What? Everybody leaves me.
Yes.
Now I will speak in the state of trauma. See, every country and every culture has their own sense of humor. And the sense of humor, for example, in the United States, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. The sense of humor in the United States is very different from the sense of humor in England, for example. So, for example, if a person goes and stays in a hotel room and finds the hotel room small, which, by the way, I can take, it was a fabulous hotel. I'm in a very luxurious place, like staying in Taj Mahal. But if the person finds the hotel room small, the Americans will make fun of that small hotel room in a very different way than the British would. And I'll tell you why I'm saying this. The Americans might say, you know, the room was so small that I had to use a folding toothbrush. That is the American way. The British way is just the opposite. The British person is staying in a room that he feels or she feels is small, might complain by saying, it was certainly not a football field. This difference is important to know because I was going to begin by saying with a light-hearted comment that please do not listen to me with 100% seriousness. Because if you listen to me with 100% seriousness, you will be lost. About 81% seriousness is about enough in listening to the way I speak. But then I wasn't sure whether this comment will be received in the spirit that it was meant. The meaning of that comment basically is that while we are talking about serious things, no doubt, and important things, no doubt, things that affect our daily work, and if even 2 people or 3 people get a little bit slightly different and use listening and talking in a different way, that is a success. So we're talking about serious things because we're trying to help people. And what I'm going to tell you will try to help people. So in that way it is serious. But it should not be so serious as to rob us of all relaxation and fun and enjoyment. So we should do it like playing football, playing cricket, playing hockey. You know, play, as Winnicott says, is not a frivolous thing. The opposite of play is not seriousness, because play is serious, but it's play. Same way, the way I'm talking, and I would expect and encourage that please feel free. If I say something and you don't understand, just raise your hand and ask right then. So let it be like a play between us. Now, the theme of listening is important because, generally speaking, I don't know in Spanish, But in English-speaking countries, psychotherapy and psychoanalysis is often called as talking cure or talk therapy, you know. And this phrase was started, I don't know what the original German was, by Breuer's patient Anna O, who said it was talking cure. She talked and she felt better. And it became a very hit phrase, like Rocky and Rambo. Yes, please.
She said it in English, actually.
She said it in English.
Yeah.
Thank you. See, this is a good thing, you know. That's what my 100th book is about, in which I'm writing. You may have earned a place in that book, because the book is like this. What did I learn from my teachers and supervisors and mentors? What did I learn from my patients? What did I learn from my friends and contemporaries? And what did I learn from my supervisees and students? And there's also a section about what did I learn from audiences to which I spoke. So, you know, if you treat me very well for the rest of the day, then you may enter the book. But this is very good that she used it in English. It's also interesting why, right? That would be interesting. Because remember, this is not related to the topic, but it's an important thing. That when Ferenczi had a patient who would use the word fart. Now he was speaking in Hungarian, Ferenczi was speaking Hungarian, but whenever the word fart will come, he'll speak in German. You know? And from that, Ferenczi wrote first a very small paper, then a little longer paper. Both papers have the same title, On Obscene Words, you know, in which Ferenczi proposes that the words for penis, vagina, anus, farting, shitting, peeing, belching, these words in the mother tongue carry a much greater id discharge and much greater superego prohibition. Why? As against if you acquire the same words in a language later on. For example, I can say fuck you. It doesn't matter to me. I say fucking. It doesn't do anything to me. But if you look in my eyes and say, can you say fucking in your mother tongue? I said, no. I'm a good guy. I don't talk like that. Because fucking is not close to my id or superego. The word for fucking in my mother tongue is. And Ferenczi had a hypothesis that the reason is that the word representation and the thing representation is collapsed and fused. Because when the child learns the first time a word for penis, a word for vagina, a word for anus, a word for peeing, shitting, you know, fucking, belching, farting, when the child learns the first word, he has the only one word for only that thing. So this is very close. Word and thing is the same thing, or word and action. So for an English-speaking person, peeing sounds like peeing. Fucking sounds like fucking. To me, fucking doesn't sound like fucking at all. It doesn't sound like that to me at all. You know? Because in my mother tongue, it's a completely different word. So, anyway, but I think there's a second reason why obscene words in one's mother tongue have a greater discharge and greater prohibition. And that is that when the words are acquired, they are acquired in a relationship. And therefore, these words also carry incestuous implications in one's mother tongue. And the later acquired words do not carry that incestuous implications. And therefore, we can use obscene words in other languages much more easily than we can use them in our own. Even as Sigmund Freud, when he was describing that when he was 3.5 years old, and in the train they were moving from Leipzig to Vienna, and he pretended to be asleep, and his mother was changing clothes, and the mother was completely naked, and he pretended, but he was watching. And he's writing this letter at age 32 to Fleece in German, but when it comes to mother naked, he writes in Latin. He cannot say it in German. You know? So now see, this is like the 19%. This has nothing to do with what we are talking about. But that doesn't mean it's not important, right? And that doesn't mean it's not funny. Okay. So Anna O, started this thing, talking cure. And the word talking cure became a very, very popular phrase. Talk therapy, talking cure. And a lot of emphasis in the literature became on talking. The patients talking, patients not talking, and free association, resistance, patients talking through body, acting out, and the analyst talking, clarification, empathic comments, reconstruction, construction, interpretation, genetic interpretation, and so on and so forth. So the emphasis of psychoanalytic literature became upon how and what the patient says and how and what the analyst says. And a lot was ignored about how does the patient listen, how does the analyst listen. Freud himself, in the paper on beginning treatment, makes only 3 remarks about listening. And after that, Freud never wrote about listening. And those remarks are only present in there. One remark is that one should not focus on anything specific in particular. So that one doesn't listen like this. One listen like this. Let the whole material come, and not quickly and pointedly selecting to listen to this and not listen to this, but let the whole thing come. That's one thing he says. What the phrase then was used as evenly suspended attention or evenly hovering attention. That's one recommendation Freud has. The second recommendation, which is actually a description rather than recommendation, is that the analyst must attune his unconscious to the patient's unconscious. Just like, and he uses example of the telephone receiver, that the telephone receiver actually receives electric currents, and from electric currents they are changed into sounds and voices. So, and this has to attune itself to the electricity that's coming. In a way, it means basically that the analyst should relax and let the patient relax. Let the patient talk in a broad way, and the analyst listens in the broad way. So material that is being said and not being said in between, or how it is being said, will enter the mind. And we'll pick up something that the patient is not consciously intending. That's the second recommendation. The third recommendation Freud says is that the analyst must not tolerate any resistance in himself or herself. And if there is a resistance, the analyst needs to purify themselves by further psychotherapy or psychoanalysis. This third situation happens when the analyst is not feeling physically well. It happens when the analyst is having money difficulties. It happens when the analyst is undergoing a divorce. It happens when an analyst is somebody in the family is not well. So under those circumstances, when somebody is not well, when the analyst is not well, when the money problems are there, when a divorce is going on, then the analyst may actually not be able to listen properly and tend to avoid certain topics. And this is what Freud is talking about, that the analyst must be brave and must be able to listen regardless of his or her own difficulties. After these recommendations, this was 1912, the paper called On Beginning the Treatment. And then till 1937, 25 years, no mention of listening. Then a book came out, Listening with the Third Ear, by Theodor Reich. This was the person who was a psychologist, and Freud had defended, because people said, how can a non-medical person become a psychoanalyst? And Freud was in a strong defense that it's not necessary. In fact, Freud felt it can be harmful for somebody to be a doctor, because the healing and helping zeal and enthusiasm can come in the way of listening properly. So Reich's book, Listening with the Third Ear, appeared in 1937, and then a gap of 67 years, and then my book called Psychoanalytic Listening appeared in 2013, and then there are 2 more books that have just come out by a person whose last name is Griffin, I'm forgetting his first name. Griffin, he's in Texas, and the book is about psychoanalytic listening, but mostly derived from he's a very big reader of English literature. So mostly on Virginia Woolf, but other people also. How to read novels and such. And then he takes that reading fiction to reading. So Griffin and Evelyn Schreiber, who had been writing papers here and there, and her collected papers had come out. So basically these are the 4 books. Reich's book, my book, Griffin's book, and Schreiber's book on psychoanalytic listening. Now, I am, on one hand, my mind is very manic and hypomanic, just be polite, right? So in that way, I have like too many ideas going through my mind, too many ideas. On the other hand, to control this chaos, I also need to order, like 1, 2, 3, 4. That way, I can control my thinking and organize them. So as I began to read and think about listening, it occurred to me, in 2007 actually, I first used the word listening cure. That psychoanalysis is more of a listening cure than a talking cure. It depends upon how the analyst listens to the patient, how the patient listens to the analyst, how the patient listens to themselves, and how the analyst listens to themselves. Listening is much more important thing. A Brazilian analyst by the name of Leopold Nozek has then written actually far better things about listening and how psychoanalysis is mostly a listening cure. For some peculiar reason, I have no idea what that reason is, must be political. Somehow, the plenary address he gave in the IPA never got published. But I have a copy of it, and it's about listening. And it's a remarkable paper, and I'll be glad to send it to you. Are we okay? Okay. There's money in it? Okay. So, to organize all this in some order, I read every paper here and there, little material, and I came to conclusion that there are 4 ways of listening. 4 ways of listening. One way is objective listening. Second way is subjective listening. Third way is empathic listening. And fourth way is intersubjective listening. Now, I wish there was a way to draw a diagram, but not, I'll draw it here and then show it to you. Okay, you can see this, I'm sorry. Here is the diagram. This is how it happens. This is how psychotherapy and psychoanalysis happens. This is the receptive end, and this is conscious, pre-conscious, unconscious. The patient speaks, and we hear something. We hear a noise, a sound of the patient's words. Sometimes the patient makes sounds. I have a patient who often does, right? Like that. So we hear noises and we hear words in the conscious mind. Then at the border of conscious and unconscious, we begin to listen. I'll give you this diagram. Olga, I'll give this to you so you can tell. Then we begin to listen, which means hearing is an occipital lobe, listening is in temporal lobe. So now we are beginning to make some sense of what is this person saying. Then this goes further deeper. And now we begin to understand what is this person saying, why is he saying this, why is he saying it today, what does he want? And then we link it with the theory of development and metapsychology. Meaning, does the person know what he's saying? How much does the person know what he's saying? Is the person consciously aware, not consciously aware? Who's the person talking to? Who am I? And such. We do this. In this, here a group of people are sitting. And the group of people are Freud, Klein, Winnicott, Bion, Green, Kernberg. These are 8 people sitting here. And then 2 people are sitting on the other side. Your training analyst and your supervisors and your mother and father. So these people tell you what does it mean. These people tell you how to say. And then you begin to formulate what to say. And then you have to decide and choose how much to say and in what words to say, and then you say it. Now this process, this U2, going from hearing to speaking. This is sensory end, this is the motor end. There are many steps. When you are young and when you are a beginning therapist, these things are all conscious. These things are all conscious. As you assimilate knowledge, as you assimilate experience, more and more of this stuff becomes unconscious. This is the analyst's working ego. This is the analyst's working self. This is the pre-conscious connections between work ego and work self. These 2 words, work ego and work self, are from Stefano Bolognini, who's a very fine analyst who you should read. So now, our concern today is this end. Hearing, listening, understanding, and beginning to formulate and link with theory. That is our concern today. In this piece, I found that there are 4 different methods that have been proposed in psychoanalysis. The first method is objective listening, then subjective listening, then empathic listening, then intersubjective listening. Let's take one by one. Objective listening. The best stuff to read, because I am like a stamp collector. I'm showing you a stamp album. These are not my stamps. This is made in Bolivia, Japan, South Korea, Russia. These are in different countries. I've just collected them, right? So you need to know the original sources. Then you can read it yourself and see whether what I understood and what you understand is the same or not. The best piece to read about objective listening is a 1941 little book by Otto Fenichel. It's called Theory of Psychoanalytic Technique. It's a less known book. And the other book to read is a Charles Brenner book, Psychic Conflict and Psychoanalytic Technique, and Paul Gray's book, which Ego and the Psychoanalytic Technique, and Fred Bush, who's a newer person. This is a lineage. In Indian music, in playing sitar, there's a family. They are not actually family, but it's called the family. Meaning, the tradition goes from one to another to another. Fenichel, even before Fenichel, Lowenstein. There's a paper called Hierarchy of Interpretation. Lowenstein, Fenichel, then Brenner, then Gray, then Fred Bush. What is the characteristic of this kind of listening? This kind of listening has 4 or 5 criteria. Number 1, you listen to patients' words. every word the patient says, you listen carefully. One. Second, you take one sentence of the patient, next sentence of the patient, next sentence of the patient, and you see whether they are following in a linear way or whether there is a turn. Is this road going straight? Like I say, I love my mother is a wonderful person, my mother has written many books. It is going straight. But if I say, I love my mother is a wonderful person, by the way, let me tell you something about my nephew. So this is a turn. So we follow the association chain and we be very interested in the turn of the association. And I'll come back to why. So one is listening to words, listening to sentences, looking out for the turns in the sentences where the topic changes, and keeping psychoanalytic theory clearly in mind. And the analyst's countertransference matters very little. What is important is because the analyst knows. The analyst is the arbiter of reality. What is real, what's imaginary, is the analyst's job. And the analyst is like a judge. The analyst knows this is too much, this is too little. This is real, this is unreal. This is written in this such and such book. You are talking about a cucumber, that means you're talking about a penis because it's written in the book. You're talking about a melon, that means you're talking about a breast. A melon cannot be a penis. It's all written in the book. You have to follow the method. You have to listen to words, you have to listen to associations, you have to have the theory of symbolism in mind and the theory of anxiety and defenses in the mind. As a result, when the association changes, you will think, wow, the patient was saying, my mother is a wonderful person, my mother has written many books, I love my mother. Oh, by the way, let me tell you about my nephew. What happened when the patient says, I love my mother? Why did the topic change? Your concern is that this is where some anxiety happened. And therefore, the topic got changed. The ego shifted its focus because the ego could not tolerate staying with this subject because it was going to cause anxiety. And the signal anxiety rose and shifted the mind. This is called objective listening. So here is an example. A patient, now listen to this example because we'll use it in other ways also. A patient comes 2 minutes late, comes very fast. He's breathless. He walks in, lies on the couch. He says, your office is too far from my working place. Oh my God. Oh, by the way, I have some very good news to give you. Very good news. Remember, I was afraid of asking my chairman in the department to give me some money because I want to go for some conference. And thank you so much for helping me. Because of our work, I was able to ask. And I got the money. My chairman said, no problem, you can go to the conference. So, in October, this is October, in December, first week, I wouldn't be able to come because I'm going to a conference to San Francisco. This is all the association. This is what the patient says. Now, if you are listening objectively, and you are Freudian. Now here's another finer thing. The Freudians or Kleinians are twins. They don't get along with each other, but they are twins. Winnicottians are not twins. No. Winnicottians are cousins. They are different ball game. They're good British Christian people. These are Jewish minority people. They have different thoughts. These are majority people. They have different thoughts. A mentality of a majority that's white, that's Anglo-Saxon, that lives in England, that England rules all the world. What do they say? People are basically good. The world is good, people are good, and if anybody who's in pain, he must have been hurt by somebody. What does the minority people who are suffering from anti-Semitism and are in minority in a Catholic Vienna, Jewish people. What do they say in Germany, Mrs. Klein and Freud? People are not good. They are hiding some badness, and we have to open this badness up. You see, it's a different ball game. What people are afraid of recognizing is that there's a Jewish psychoanalysis and there's a Christian psychoanalysis. The Winnicottian. And the funniest part is all the middle school, independent school, Winnicott, Fairbairn, Guntrip, all of them are Christians. But the non-Christians who are in this, they became Christians. Michael Balint, whose name was Mihaly Bergsman, became a church-going Christian person at age 19. And Heinz Kohut, who's kind of Miller Lite of British independent. It's like, Corona Light? Yeah, like that. So it's like light independent tradition. He turned Catholic also. You know that he got converted to be a Catholic. This is a different ball game, and this is a different ball game. But we'll get into it more bit by bit. So now what happens is, listen to this example. Freudians will find one thing and Kleinians will find another thing. But both of them are interested in the same thing, meaning they're interested in the turn. So, patient comes, your office is so far from my office, my car. Oh, by the way, I have a good news. With your help, I was able to apply for chairman and I got the money and I'll be able to go to the conference. Thank you so much. Oh, by the way, I'll be away in first week of December. You see, A, B, C. The first turn happens, the patient begins in an irritated and angry and complaining way. Patient says, your office is so far from my office, meaning you're inconveniencing me. Then he drops it. I have good news. I have good news. So instead of fighting and complaining and bitching and moaning, he is now, we are friends. But then when we are friends, what does he do? He leaves. He says, I'll be in San Francisco, meaning far from you, meaning he has taken the revenge. So if you're a Freudian analyst, when do you speak? Suppose this much of the patient is spoken. You might say, because see? So now you might say, it's very interesting. You began the session by registering a complaint. And somehow you didn't stay with that complaint. I wonder what happened. What would have happened had you said more about how unhappy you are as to how far my office is? This is Big Mac, French fry, Freudian psychoanalysis. Regular day-to-day stuff, right? Now, the fascinating thing is that Freudians are interested in this turn of association. The Kleinians are also interested in the turn. The Freudians are interested in what caused the turn. The Kleinians are not interested in that. The Kleinians are interested in what did the turn cause. What did the turn cause? And that is, what did the turn cause? A pseudo-cordial relationship. A relationship of pleasant mutuality which is hiding the hatred. So, what would the Kleinian analyst say? Is this how you make friends? By hiding your negative feelings towards them? This is lethal stuff. This is real deep stuff, right? This is not bullshitting. One time, a patient said, I said to a patient that, I'm going to be, sorry to give you a short notice, I apologize, but something has come up and I can't be here Monday and Tuesday. Patient says, okay, no problem, these things happen, I understand. Patient was also a doctor. Patient said, no problem, these things happen, I understand. There's a pause. After the pause, the patient says, I don't know why I'm thinking of my grandmother. My grandmother was so sweet and she was so nice. She died last year. And I went to her funeral. I don't think you have been, now the patient was not American, and not from India or Pakistan or Bangladesh, not from my side of the world, but from a very remote and different country that I knew very little about. So the patient says, so I went to her funeral, and I don't think you have ever been to my country. So let me tell you what happens. When an old woman dies, one of the things we do, and then she goes on in great detail, and I find myself completely absorbed and very interested in listening to the detail of the funeral arrangements and all. And then I hit myself inside. I said, what the fuck are you doing? Is this not an anthropology class? Yeah? You have to be attentive to what is going on, not what happens in that country for old women's funeral. What is happening right now? What is she doing? Right? So again, the Freudian thing would be, I said, I'll not be here. So it's already the session iatrogenically disturbed. The session is already artificial because I started the session. So I took a pebble and I threw it in the lake. So lake will produce rings. So now it's my responsibility to wash the rings. What does the patient say? It's okay, I understand. These things happen. Okay, meaning I have no feelings. Let's all be real. You are a doctor, I'm a doctor. Let's forget transference, mommy, daddy, love, hate. No. Let's keep it business. Then, all affect is suppressed. There's a silence. Then, what does Papa say? The repressed exerts a continuous pressure in the upward direction of consciousness. What a great sentence. Now, please understand, Papa was also wrong many times. And many things he said were quite full of shit. But when he was good, he was very good. When he was good, he was very good. The repressed exerts a continuous pressure in the upward direction of consciousness. It's like a cork. You put the cork under water, you put your hand, the cork wants to come out. So the patient says, it's okay, these things happen. Pause. I don't know why I'm thinking of my grandmother. My grandmother was very sweet. Poor woman, she died last year. I don't think you have been to my country, but there's some very interesting rituals about old ladies' funerals. Let me tell you about it. This is the sequence. So now, how are we listening? Listen as Freudian. Listen as Kleinian. Listen as Winnicottian. You'll find different data, different this sensory thing, different motor thing. Well, from Freudian perspective, what will we listen? Because we are objective listening. That's Freudian and Kleinian. So let's leave for a while Winnicottian. We say we're leaving. The patient says let's keep it realistic. Let's avoid all transference and all affect. But there's a silence, which means the counter cathexis is keeping the material down, but it pops up, the repressed. And the memory of the grandmother comes. Sweet woman who's no longer available. So we might say, and then the cultural artifacts as a defense against the sadness of the loss. So if you're a Freudian analyst, you might say, it seems to me that you find it easier to talk about your beloved grandmother who's no longer available than to permit yourself to think or feel anything about my absence and the rupture of our relationship. This is regular, regular quesadilla analysis. This is like regular day-to-day stuff, right? If you're a Kleinian, then you are listening to this in a different way. You might say, so have you already decided to kill me that I'm leaving? Because one of my Kleinian supervisors said, the reason the grandmother's death comes to mind, nothing happens in the unconscious without intention. So the death has been caused She could have thought of a friend who moved away because she got a job in Harvard Medical School. She could have thought of a daughter who got married and happily went to honeymoon. No, she thinks of death. Right? So the Kleinians say, so have you already decided to kill me because I have taken 2 days off? Different psychoanalysis, different sensory end, different motor end. Just to complete the picture, although this is not the part of it, what would a Winnicottian think? The Winnicottian would think the patient had come not to talk about all this. The patient didn't come to talk about this. It's because of my need to not be here Monday and Tuesday that the patient is talking, whatever the patient is talking. Therefore, it is not true self anyway. It's an impingement and a false self. So, I made the patient false. I said, talk about my problems. Patient had not come wanting to talk about this. Patient may have wanted to come and patient may have something else on his mind or her mind. I said, no, talk about me. I introduced something. So the response is a false self-response to an impingement. Now, nobody likes to be false, especially in an intimate relationship. So the patient then tries to say, you are making me false. I'm going to give up on you. There was one woman who let me be myself. And that was my grandmother. So I'll forget about you, I'll just go to my grandmother. Because she didn't bother me. She kind of let me be myself. Oh my God, she's gone. Let me go to my country. Because my country owns me and I own my country. If you hear it this way, you might say, it's interesting that you're telling me about all these cultural rituals, and understandably so, because it sort of makes you feel at home and at one with you and the culture and everything. While, when I said that I'm not going to be here, I sort of separated you and me and made you forced to say something about it. I'm sorry. These are very different technical things. You see, these are not ordinary things. That's why it takes a long time to learn. There's an old saying, I'm looking at some young people, there's an old saying, it takes 10 years to do psychoanalytic training and 10 years to recover from it. Some people drop out in first 10, some people drop out in second 10. After 21 years, if you're still seeing patients and listening carefully, then you're okay. That's what I think.